I just welcome everyone to this Scottish Federation of Housing Associations reception. Now is not the time for a great speech on the importance of affordable housing. We all know about that. But let me introduce first of all Jackie Watt, who's the Chief Executive of the SFHA, to say a few words, and I think Brian Geoghegan, who's the Chairman and also Chair of Cairn Housing Association, which has a big presence in my constituency, and I know the excellent work they do there. Well, I think maybe say a few words and then we'll have a quick look at watch of the film. So, Jackie.
I'm very pleased to be here. We're regarding this as our last attempt, really, before you all break for your Easter recess, to seek to press the point home about the share of the UK budget which goes on housing and obviously consequentially what actually eventually comes to Scotland. Our campaign for homecoming started with a campaign which we called 1% for 100%. And in that, what we're arguing is that if the Scottish housing budget was increased by a further 1%, we could produce 100% more affordable homes. Now, those homes could be for rent or they could be shared equity models, but that's to give you an indication of the big, if you like, national economic picture of what we think we can deliver with that sort of increase.
Oh, then let me tell you that I love you, and I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me, and now I'm going home. If I should become a stranger, you know that it would make me more than sad. Caledonia, been everything I've ever had.
And I think you've come to the right place, because some people might look to their councils, their housing associations, the Scottish Government, but ultimately it is the Government at Westminster, it's the Treasury here at Westminster that controls the money. And if you're going to get the money, and if you're complaining about money, the place to come is to Westminster. They control the purse strings at the moment, although in the SNP we want to change that, but that's the reality.
I hope that we will see a boost. I think it's crucial for a number of reasons. One is obviously we've got a crying need for housing, and when you ask me about the Aberdeen situation, I'll spell that out in spades, because we've got a massive problem at the moment. But in addition to that, there's the problems of employment, particularly in the construction industry, and the need to keep the country working. And we're going through very difficult times at the moment, and we need to use all the powers that we've got, all the levers that we've got, pull all of them, and finance for the construction industry is a crucial one.
I think the reception has been incredibly useful, because it's given us exposure to MPs that we would not normally meet. Clearly, in Willie's case here, from the Thermal Building Society's point of view, there's a huge issue that we need to look at, and I think there are some real exciting possibilities that we can discuss with MPs, with the Society and the nationwide, to enhance how borrowing might be made more effectively to housing associations to stimulate our sector in the future.
I'll come back to you, but just turning to Willie, who you've mentioned, obviously you're the Dunfermline local MP. It's been a fairly traumatic week, I'm sure, more for the employees and savers at the Dunfermline, but surely a busy one for you. What is your immediate sense of where things stand?
It's a very small number of people who've made some bad decisions at the Society, but the rest of them are first-class employees, including people who dealt with the social housing side of things, who still got a great reputation. So, and I think that's one of the things we do need to deal with. Is
so have you any specific reassurance you can give to RSLs who have obviously dealt with the Dunfermline very fruitfully over a couple of decades now?
Yeah, it's not for me to give assurances, it's me to try and seek them, but I'm confident that we'll actually find a resolution to this. There's lots of different possibilities. In fact, sometimes change is a great opportunity to build in new systems and new ways of working, so I'm quite optimistic about what we can do.
Down in Dumfries, what is the situation? We were down there last week speaking to Hassan Khan from Lowerburn Housing Association, and he was saying the situation is pretty acute in terms of housing supply.
It's pretty desperate, and I would say to you, in actually looking at Dumfries as a town and Stranraer also as a town, there are issues there with the major landlord there, Dumfries and Galloway Housing Partnership, because they're undertaking regeneration work at the moment. So we've got houses which are becoming vacant, which are being boarded up ready for demolition at some time in the near future, and that is creating an even greater problem.
We're always looking for houses in the Western Isles. It's a place that people want to live, The housing association there is active about building houses. They're a good housing association, and hopefully they can go from strength to strength in the years to come. New houses have been announced just recently, which I welcome.
So, I mean, in Aberdeen City, how acute is the problem?
Well, it's massive. I'll give you an example. A few months ago, I asked a housing officer what the situation was that day in the housing. We had a waiting list of over 7,500 and 139 available houses. It's as bad as that. The housing associations are chock-a-block. They can't help out at that. We depend to a large extent on the private rented sector. And of course, part of the reason for that is all the reasons we're familiar with. The local authority hasn't been building houses. The best houses have been sold. But the Aberdeen economy is still booming. We're probably going to see a slight downturn in the next year in the oil and gas industry. But at the moment, on the latest figures, our unemployment rate is running about 1.8%. People come to the city to work, they find work. We have had a huge influx of people from Eastern Europe, particularly Poles, Latvians, Lithuanians. They all require some form of housing. So we've got a serious problem. And so the idea that you're promoting here today is would be manna from heaven from our point of view, to see the possibility of new social housing being built.
The issue of borrowing and the prominence of the Dunfermline Building Society is a very current issue. But I think what's more fundamental are the Westminster and Holyrood responsibilities to get the affordable housing programme moving in Scotland in a window of opportunity that isn't going to last terribly long. And we really do need to grasp that as quickly as we can and get rid of these obstacles, get the building companies on site, fast-track planning applications for affordable housing, and get the building companies building this new housing which Scotland so badly needs.
I think it's been extremely interesting. There have been a lot of very good conversations about housing policy, about how investing in housing is a really good economic investment in this particular market. And there's also been a good buzz around the place, people actually talking about housing and the need to invest in good quality, affordable rented homes.
Now, obviously, one of the things housing associations in Scotland will want to know is, do you think the Chancellor's listening? Because obviously we are a small part of the overall equation, but you think the message is getting home UK-wide?
I do think the Chancellor's listening, and I do think that there is some real consideration going on in government about if there is money for investment, where that investment will go. And I have absolutely no doubt that housing is one of the main contenders for that, and particularly good quality rented housing. I think they understand the issues. Indeed, I have an opportunity to speak to our housing minister in England tomorrow about exactly this subject, and I know that the Treasury is doing some detailed modelling on it. So I think there is a good... whether or not anything will come of it, I don't know, but I do think that there is a proper consideration of the demand.
I think it's been very successful, Alan, and I think it's been great. We've had probably about 20 MPs in the room tonight. We've also got David Orr here from the National Housing Federation, and I think the arguments about what we need in Scotland are actually so similar in England that it's worthy of us joining up at a UK-wide level and campaigning as hard as we can to keep affordable housing on the agenda and to make sure that we get the budgets that we need to build the houses that other people desperately need.